Welcome to our Climate Wisdom Studio live from Baku in Azerbaijan. We bring together experts from science, spirituality and politics to explore new solutions for the unfolding climate crisis. I'm Golo Pilz and I will be the moderator for today's session, and we will explore the connection between spirituality and science in climate solution. It's day 3 of this COP29, and at present the climate summit is going on, and heads of states from around the world are making their case for more funding to tackle climate change. This COP is also dubbed the Finance COP, and the world's top multilateral banks have pledged more climate funds up to $100 billion per year. But if we see that the damage is already much higher, it's a question if that will be enough. Meanwhile, latest science reports say that global warming is accelerating and the impacts are unfolding much faster than expected. For example, methane gas emissions have risen much higher than expected, and the highest rate since they are on record. Countries also gave the go-ahead to carbon credit quality standards, which are critical to the UN-backed global carbon market that would fund green projects. I'm glad to have 2 experts with me today to shed more light on these rather complicated issues. I have with me Isabel Pereira. You hold a Master in Law and Human Rights and have worked for over 20 years with NGOs and international organizations on social justice and humanitarian affairs. Currently, you are the coordinator of religion and environment of ISER, the Institute of Studies of Religion, and that's located in Brazil, if I'm right.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, welcome very much to our session. I'm also glad to have Maureen Goodman with me. You are the Program Director of the Brahma Kumaris in United Kingdom, and you have attended several climate change conferences and have a deep interest in the spiritual and ethical dimensions of climate change. And I know you just come from the UN Biodiversity Conference in Colombia. Since long, you have been involved in the interreligious dialogue and have represented the Brahma Kumaris on many occasions. Welcome, Maureen.
Thank you.
Let us start our conversation, and I have the first question for Isabel. Please tell us a bit what ISER is doing and what brings you actually to the COP.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank you for this invitation. I'm very glad to be here with you today. ISER, is that how we call it in Portuguese? Because
ISER,
of
okay.
Brazil. But it's the Institute of Studies on Religion, as you said. It works in Brazil. The base of it is in Rio de Janeiro. It's a Brazilian civil society organization, a secular one, and it was founded in 1970. So it's been working for 54 years now. And it has the idea that religion affects society. So we must understand how religion works in all of the societies in Brazil, so that we can, for instance, talk about very important topics such as human rights, social justice, environment, and most importantly for us at ISER, strengthen democracy. Since the 1990s, ISER worked with environmental issues and its relationship with religion. And in 1992, when we had the convention, the UN convention in 1992, there was a big gathering, a vigil, an inter-religious vigil in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro by then. And ISER was one of the organizers of these vigils. And from then on, we did a lot of studies, of training programs that was about this intersection of environment and religion. And in 2015, we founded the Faith in Climate Initiative because of the Paris Agreement and also the Laudato Si movement, where we engage religious communities in facing the climate crisis.
So you also deal with indigenous communities in Brazil?
This Faith in Climate initiative, it really works with religious leaders and also representatives from original populations, such as indigenous peoples, and also in Brazil we have the Quilombola people that are the Afro-descendant traditional communities. So yes, we do have these very important representatives in our initiative.
Are you advising to the government in your capacity?
We do have a lot of studies that can have this effect, but not formally.
Okay. It sounds a very interesting activity.
Yes.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Maureen, I know that the Brahma Kumaris is quite active here at the climate conference in the interreligious dialogue, and there's also a pavilion where we have a couple of programs. Please share a bit what's going on in this interreligious dialogue and how you're trying to get more impact.
Thank you. Yes, the Faith Pavilion is a very, very good thing to have. It makes the whole voice of faith more visible to the people who are participating. It's a place where we can gather, and the Brahma Kumaris are one of the supporters of the Faith Pavilion, along with many other.
We have a helper also from our side.
Yes, that's also true. We have a young person who's been helping at the Faith Pavilion. It's very important that the voice of faith is heard, because faith has a connection with the local communities in a very profound way. And within our faith traditions, there's a lot of wisdom as to how to work with the earth, how to preserve our biodiversity, and so on. And so, and I remember one executive secretary from a former biodiversity conference saying, it's so important to read your scriptures and understand, otherwise you won't have food on the table. So very important. And so we're part of that, and we're also part of the Interfaith Liaison Committee, which has been around, I think, maybe about 15 years, something like that. And in fact, one of our Brahma Kumaris sisters is co-chair of that, together with a reverend from the World Council of Churches. And every year they create a call to the governments. So they consult with all the faith communities. And this year they've prepared a call to the governments. And the preamble of it is saying that we call for decisions to be made on the basis of honesty, compassion, and trust. And then it also speaks about attitudes towards climate finance and takes up various topics. And so that will be presented to the Executive Secretary of the Climate Change Conference at some point within these 2 weeks. And so over the years, this has built up, and the activities have built up, the number of activities, and it's been these last 2 years that we've actually had a faith pavilion, and very grateful to the governments and also the Muslim Council of Elders who were able to sponsor that and make it possible. And so yes, these are some of the things that we've been doing, and the events in the faith pavilion are many and varied. There are observances of silence, of meditation, because actually we have to remember how important the power of prayer is, and also different aspects of how faith can help communities, help with women's empowerment, with Indigenous people and all the different constituencies. So faith plays a part, and we're trying to raise that voice as loud as possible.
Great. It's great to hear that Brahma Kumaris is part of that, and that regular meditation in the morning and evening is also going on, I heard.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so we are also serving the subtle vibration at the climate conference and try to empower the delegates also through prayer and positive thoughts. I think that's also something which is more and more appreciated by the delegates. Thanks very much for sharing our collaboration. That brings me back to Isabel. You study religion, and I assume you have a quite good overview. Can and should religion play a more significant role in mobilizing the society to act in view of the emerging climate disaster. I think 70% or 80% of the world population follow one or the other faith.
84%.
84%.
And over 90% in Africa.
Over 90%, 84% of the world population follow one or the other faith. And for example, you mentioned also some years ago, Laudatio Si was published by the Pope. And it's all about preserving and taking care of our home, of our common home. So what has to happen at this COP, and should religion play a more significant role? What is your idea about that?
We believe so. In Brazil, for instance, is 90% of the population believes in God. So it's very important for the Brazilian population faith. It's very important for the Brazilian population, and I know this worldwide is the same, as you said it. And for us, one very important part of strategic and strong and bold decisions in this kind of events come from pressure from civil society and also from big mobilization of civil society. And for us, this doesn't happen if you don't really know how to engage civil society. And for us, we know that science plays a very important role in this, but it's not enough, because it doesn't go to the heart to the people. So, and also it doesn't really, we know that science has been telling us for the past 40 years that we have climate change coming on, and now we have this big emergency, this big crisis. So we understand that now we need more than that. Science is not enough. We need a lot of information. We still need many more developments in science to help, but we need to touch the heart of people. And that we know that religion and faith can play this role. And also we understand that when people discuss these matters, or they have this information coming from their religious communities or from their faith communities, it's better for them to trust it. They trust it more when they have this information coming from there, because it's a place where they feel welcome, where they do have people that they love and they also trust. So we do believe so.
That's fantastic. So it's just a question that we all join hands, that all organizations of faith join hands. It's an incredible power. Then 84% of the world population are connected. You have a belief system, it's an incredible power when it comes together.
And just a compliment, when we're talking about this COP and the next one, COP30, for instance, there are a lot of organizations and also faith communities that are coming together nationally in Brazil. And of course, we want to be a part of a very big international group of faith organizations that come together and do a very big mobilization there in COP30. I think this will be a very important part, and we are calling for an inter-religious vigil there in Brazil, and also a lot of other activities will going on. So this will be very important to have the international faith community together there also.
The next climate conference will be in Belém?
In Belém, yes,
Belém,
in the Amazon.
In the Amazon, which is affected by climate change quite dramatically.
Dramatically, yes. We have been having droughts, very, very serious and extreme droughts for the past 2 years there.
Imagine in the Amazon, which we always considered to be the green lungs of the planet Earth.
It's very sad. It's really very sad, and the population there is thriving a lot this past 2 years.
Okay. So that's a very interesting answer, and this gives also hope, about the power of the gathering and the power of the world community, So we just have to all unite, which is a bit of a tricky story also. Maureen, our topic is today spirituality and science. They have to find a solution for the climate crisis. In the Brahma Kumaris, we talk a lot about science and silence. And silence plays a very important role for us also in meditation. Can you explain a bit what's the power of silence and how it maybe empower science and guide science to find the right pathway for the solution?
Thank you. But just want to comment that I know they're preparing in the Faith Pavilion already, thinking about I'm sure they've been in communication, so
Yes.
we're looking forward to that collaboration very much. The power of silence is actually a very great power, and it's the power of your inner world. It's the power of consciousness. It's the power of awareness. But what kind of awareness? A spiritual awareness, an awareness of our original identity. We see each other, and when we look at the external, yes, we see different cultures, different ethnicities, and so on. But I think we all know that these differences are really only skin deep. And we may look at all the many different cultures that we have, but yet there are many common things that we share. And I remember that years and years ago we did do a project that was asking people to share their vision of a better world. It was in connection with the UN project. And when people shared their vision, you know, they didn't talk about, well, I want a big house, a small house. Everybody wanted the same values. They wanted peace, they wanted love, respect, tolerance, togetherness, kind of things we've been talking about. And that tells us that that is actually part of human nature, or you can say part of the nature of the soul within. So yeah, we play many roles, and so in a way we have many identities, right? You know, from morning till night. But there has to be a constant within, and that's where the power of silence lies. When we become aware of our spiritual identity, and that we have many spiritual treasures within, of peace, of love, of wisdom, of joy. And when we focus on those, our mind becomes very still. And so the world around us no longer has such an impact on us. But the power within is developing. And this is the power of silence, and it becomes stronger and stronger. And you can also call it the power of prayer. I mean, it's there in all our...
Maybe also creative potential.
Creative potential, but it's there in all our traditions. And this is a great transformative power because it's using these original qualities that are actually eternal in nature, and they can't be diminished by the external influences. So this is the power of silence. And so when this kind of power comes into the world, then many things change. And hearts are touched, we come together, but even the very elements of matter respond to this power of silence and are calmed down.
And science will get guidance also.
And science will get guidance
to go in the right direction.
Yes.
Very interesting how you describe this inner world, these inner qualities. When you go into them, the mind comes down and goes in silence, and then the power is growing, the inner power is growing, and then this inner power can go to the outside and start doing its good work.
Yes.
It's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Maureen, for sharing.
Thanks.
This brings me back to Isabel, and it's a bit more a personal question, the tricky one. We discussed it before. And it seems humanity lost a bit its path. And it seems also we lost a bit connection to the divine, you know, like without real orientation. I mean, we all go for latest gadgets and for latest technology, but that's not the real thing. We seem to have lost our compass. And we also crossed several tipping points in climate. And it seems humanity by itself will have problems to solve the crisis. And you study religion a lot. And can you imagine an intervention from above? Help from God, maybe? What's your idea about that? Share with us your insight.
So this is a very tricky question. I'm not gonna speak as a person who studied religion, but it was very interesting that I talked to a colleague that worked with me, Sarah, and she said she thinks that's a simple question. Of course we have help from the divine, because the divine has already helped us. And I said, okay, explain it to me. Because I was thinking a lot about this. And I was really thinking. And then she said, well, God gave us the ability of consciousness, of loving, of respect. So we have to use it. So I think that this was for me a very interesting way of looking at that we have already have all that's needed for us to do the change. And so this divine power is already acting in us and has already acted, and we just have to use it. And also what we were discussing is that for this to happen, we really have to bring these values and change systems, because otherwise we won't be able to really change the crisis that we are living. And so I think for me, I agreed with her, and I think this would be my answer for this question.
That there is already help from above, and in future more may be going to happen.
Exactly, that we need to use whatever has been given to us already.
Yeah. In Brahma Kumaris, we practice a lot of yoga or meditation, and an old Sanskrit explanation for yoga is connection with the divine for self-enlightenment.
Yes.
So I also remember that you spoke about silence, and in silence you maybe can find also the connection with God, the union with God, which is very empowering and very comforting also in these times of crisis, and gives people an anchor, of stability. Because when I was at the COP today, I a little bit heard in this pavilion, then I heard a little bit in that pavilion. It was very confusing messages everywhere. Everyone was very busy, and then I said a little bit, went into silence, and I said, okay, my anchor is my spirituality, is my divine connection with the light. And the moment I did it, I focused, and everything sort of relaxed for me, and this outside overload of information didn't really impact me that much, and I could really feel how I could change it and give power and love and compassion to all the delegates also on the other side, So I feel also, as you said, that help is there, and we just all have to join hands, and then things will move in the right direction, and God's plan will unfold, Wonderful. That was very inspirational talk, and now, Maureen, we're coming to the end of our little conversation of science and spirituality, and maybe you can guide us for a couple of minutes in a meditation and let heal science and spirituality, bring them together so they create a beautiful future.
So let us prepare for a journey within. We see how our thoughts are so often connected to the world around us. We think about what we see or what we hear. But then there comes a moment where we go inside and leave the influence of the external world and be in touch with the inner world of the self. I become aware of my eternal identity that is constant, unchanging, and in that identity is the power of peace. I am a being of peace. And in this state of mind, in this state of peace, I can go beyond and connect with the source of peace, with the divine. I feel that divine peace washing over me, bringing me comfort and divine love, healing me. And as I feel myself, the love and peace of the divine overflows through me into the atmosphere around me, into the world, to bring peace, to bring healing, to bring a better future for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Maureen, for this powerful meditation, bringing science and spirituality together to find solution for our climate crisis. This brings us to the end of our discussion, of our interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I would like to thank very much Isabel coming and sharing your insights, and thanks very much, Maureen, also for enlightening us.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank also to our patrons and to our sponsors, and also to the many volunteers and helpers behind the camera, which make this live studio possible. Please join us tomorrow for another session of our Wisdom Studio live from Baku, Azerbaijan. And for details, please look at our webpage, echo.brahmakumaris.org/live. You will find the program there and all the other sessions. Last not least, thanks very much to you, our audience, our global audience, for staying with us, and we all hope you took some inspiration and some knowledge from this session. Goodbye and good night from Baku in Azerbaijan, and maybe we play a short video after this session. Goodbye.